Okay, let's talk about that feeling. You know the one. That pit in your stomach when you spot it. That fuzzy, dark, unwelcomed patch on a wall or ceiling. It's just a moment of pure panic for any homeowner, right? But hey, before you start spiraling and imagining the worst-case scenario, just take a deep breath. The first step here is not panic. It's understanding what you're up against and what your options are. So let's dive right in.
So you found it. That fuzzy, unwelcome guest has made itself at home on your wall. The big question looming over your head is, what now? Is this something you can actually fix yourself, or do you need to bring in the pros in those white hazmat suits? Well, we are about to give you the exact framework you need to make that call. And let's be real, your concern is totally valid. That little patch of mold, it's not just ugly, it's a real potential threat. We're talking about a threat to your home's actual structure, and maybe even more importantly, to your family's health. But, and this is a big but, not every mold discovery has to end with a bill that looks like a phone number.
In fact, here's the good news. There's a really good chance you're perfectly capable of handling this situation all on your own. And that means saving yourself a whole lot of money and a whole lot of stress. The absolute key is just knowing where to draw the line, knowing when it's a manageable cleanup versus a problem that's way over your head.
And that brings us to what is probably the single most important piece of information you need to know right now. We call it the 10-foot rule. Honestly, this one simple guideline is going to dictate your very next move and help you make a smart, safe decision for your home and your family. 10 square feet. That's the number. Just 10 square feet. It's roughly a 3-foot by 3-foot patch. This is the critical threshold. So, what does that actually mean for you? Well, this isn't some random number we pulled out of thin air. This comes straight from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Yep, the EPA. And their guidance is crystal clear. If that moldy area is less than about 10 square feet, you can most likely tackle the job yourself. But if it's more, that's when you've got to call in a professional. And trust me, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's pretty much the gold standard in the industry. So let's break down what that rule looks like in the real world. Over on the left, you've got your classic DIY jobs. You know, a little spot of mold in the bathroom, some funk growing on a windowsill, maybe some mildew in your shower grout. These are usually small, contained problems. But on the right, that's pro territory. We're talking anything over that 10 square foot mark, or if you just have that persistent musty smell that hints at hidden mold. And definitely if you suspect anything is in your HVAC system, or if you've had major flooding, you call for help.
Okay, so you've done the math, you've measured that mold patch, and great news, it falls under the 10 square foot rule. Fantastic. So, now what? Let's get into your playbook. This is your clear step-by-step guide to getting this done safely and, most importantly, effectively.
Listen up, because before you even think about scrubbing anything, we have to talk safety. This part is absolutely 100% non-negotiable. The second you start messing with mold, its spores go airborne. So you need, at a minimum, an N95 respirator, some nitrile gloves, and full seal goggles to protect your eyes. Long sleeves and pants are a must, and, if you're getting close to that 10-foot limit, disposable coveralls are a really, really smart idea.
Okay, you got your gear on? Good. Here's the 5-step process. Step 1 is the absolute most critical part. You have to fix the water problem. I mean it. If you don't, the mold will just come right back. Second, seal off the area. You don't want those spores traveling all over your house. Third, carefully remove and dispose of anything porous that can't be saved, like drywall. Fourth, clean all the remaining hard surfaces. And finally, number 5, you have to dry everything completely. And when I say completely, I mean bone dry.
All right, let's talk about the cleaning step, because this is where a lot of people make a huge mistake. So many of us, our first instinct is just to grab the bleach, right? But you've got to look closely at this chart. Bleach, it only really works on non-porous surfaces. Think tile, glass, your bathtub. The minute you put it on something porous like wood or drywall, it might look like it's working, but it only kills the stuff on the surface. The roots are still down in there, and guess what? It's just going to grow right back. So for those kinds of surfaces, a commercial cleaner is usually a much better bet. And hey, for smaller jobs, don't forget about things like simple white vinegar or hydrogen peroxide. They can be surprisingly effective.
And please, here is a critical public service announcement. Do not, under any circumstances, just paint over the mold. I know it seems like such a tempting quick fix, but all you're doing is hiding it. The mold is still alive and well, feasting on your drywall right underneath that fresh coat of paint. It will keep growing, keep causing damage, and eventually it will pop right back through, making your problem way, way worse.
But
What if you start the job and you get that sinking feeling that you're in over your head? Knowing when to put down the tools and call a professional is just as important as knowing how to start in the first place. So let's go over the big red flags you need to be watching for.
Red flag number 1. You did everything right. You cleaned the area thoroughly, but the mold comes back. This is a classic textbook sign that you haven't actually found the real source of the moisture, or that the contamination is just way deeper inside the wall than you can get to.
Okay, red flag number 2. You pull off a piece of drywall and you find rotting wood or studs that are just crumbling in your hand. Stop. Right there. Your project just went from a simple cleaning job to a full-blown construction project. You need a professional to come in and make sure your home is still structurally sound. Now, red flag number 3 is an immediate, no questions asked, stop everything sign. If that mold is from a sewage backup or from contaminated floodwater, this is not a DIY job. Period. That water is filled with dangerous bacteria and pathogens that you do not want to mess with. It requires specialized gear and protocols. Don't even think about it.
And finally, red flag number 4. Just listen to your body. Seriously. If you start getting headaches, or you're coughing, or you feel any wheezing in your chest while you're cleaning, stop immediately. It means your safety gear or your containment just isn't cutting it, and you're getting exposed to way too much of the bad stuff. And if you do end up needing to call for help, it's good to have a realistic idea of what this might cost. You know, a small contained job could be in the ballpark of $1,000 to $2,000. A more typical issue in a house often lands somewhere in that $2,000 to $6,000 range. But for really big, extensive problems, yeah, the cost can climb up over $10,000 pretty quickly.
So whether you cleaned it yourself or you hired a pro, the job isn't really over until you have a solid prevention strategy in place. Look, the goal isn't just to remove the mold you see today, it's to turn your home into a place where mold can't even get a foothold to begin with.
And a magic number for prevention is this range right here. You want to keep your indoor humidity between 30 and 50%. See, mold absolutely needs moisture to grow. If you can control the humidity, you're basically taking away its life support system. A cheap little device called a hygrometer can help you keep an eye on those levels. So, here it is. This is your long-term prevention checklist. Just make these things a habit. Keep that humidity in the sweet spot. Always use the exhaust fans when you're cooking or showering. Do a quick check under your sinks and around windows every few months. And most important of all, if you find a leak, pounce on it. That 24 to 48-hour window is absolutely everything.
And that really brings us to the final, most important thought. You know, getting rid of the mold, that's just treating the symptom. The real win, the permanent victory, comes when you solve the problem that caused it. So you have to ask yourself, you might have cleaned that fuzzy guest off your wall, but have you truly evicted the moisture that invited it to the party in the first place? That right there is the real key to a healthy, mold-free home.